evening, everyone. Hope you all are having a good one. Happy Wednesday to you, and welcome to Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk Gundam, gaming, and Gunpla. I am Steven, aka Midnight Hatter, your host, and joining me as always, the Blue Gamer, Gundam Explainer, Adam Blue. How are you, man?
Doing good. And while we were just talking pre-show, and I was like putting together this model kit from Sieg New York, I this is one of those things that you do that it's like you're dumb, or maybe it's just me, where I built the whole thing and then I actually forgot to put the armor on his torso. Like I'm like, wow, I'm done, but I've got these extra pieces. I'm like, what? I just
I
missed.
hate that feeling where it's like, like, oh man, sweet. It came with like all these extra parts, and then you're like, wait a second.
It's different than Legos, because
Yeah.
Legos you have those extra parts that are really for when you lose the little tiny piece. But
Exactly.
that's
I
always
think
fun.
that, on the first edition real grades of, like, well, I say first edition, they only really made 1 edition of the Zaku 2s. I'm fairly confident that they had, like, 3 or 4 spare little, energy pipe
Yeah.
coils, specifically because threading them onto the spring and you see, I have mine super glued because I do not trust these things at all. I super glued them into the legs because the number of times that thing like, all it was is I would just move the knee, and it was like,
Interesting. I don't know if it's that one or piping or tubing on another one where, like, you put it on, but then I realized they were all, like, upside down or the wrong way, so then it wasn't even. I don't know if that sounds familiar to you. I forget which kit. It might have been a
"Oh,
master
no."
grade, but it's like where, "Oh, now I have to go back and undo it."
Well,
You
and I
know
know that with, like, the Real Grade Mark II, you had to, like, cut the fabric piping for the back of the knees.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was pretty
Um,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that, honestly, but, it was yeah, it's one of those fascinating details that you notice. And, of course, we're gonna be talking a lot of Gunpla tonight because we are going to do a recap of the Richmond, Virginia, Gundam Builder World Cup, results from last weekend. I went out there and I took some pictures and stuff, but I think that, the professional photographers that they got shots for the Hobbytown Instagram page, much better than anything off of my old iPhone 5S. So
Oh,
we're gonna defer to
that's
the experts, and,
oh, cool.
we'll talk about the folks that placed, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and then we'll kind of throw it up to you guys in the chat and see what you guys think, who you would have rated, and where you might have placed them as we look at some of the builds that were featured there. I mean, I gotta say, RVA Gunpla brings the heat, like, every time that there's a competition there, so I'm always excited to see what everyone's got in store. I got to hang out with Coop from the Undergated podcast, which was
That's
awesome.
cool.
He came out and was taking shots and doing some coverage there, which was really cool. Man, there's so many things that I wanted to pick up at the store, and I was like, I can't justify the spend right now.
And that's funny because, like, that's what I was saying earlier. It's so cool how many people are in that area. Because not only did you get to hang out with Coop, but, one of the winners here is someone that I had been following on YouTube just from their video game and Japanese content, and then find out that they were building Gunpla and then entered this, and then because I remember when they posted that, "Here's my build," I'm like, "Oh, well, that's neat." And then all of a sudden they won this, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, Steven's there." And you get to meet all these people, dude. I'm
It's very
jealous.
cool, and that was something that, like, Zeonic Shadow and I were talking about, was something Coop and I were talking about too, is, like, there is a lot of talent in the Virginia area, but I think that it's kind of,
Yeah.
like, distributed, between, like, Northern Virginia and the Virginia Beach and Richmond, so
Oh,
we're a little spread out, like, if you wanna meet any other builders, you might be around 2 hours away, in any direction, but it's nice that Richmond, Virginia is like a nice central hub for everyone to kind of come
yeah.
to.
And how far is that from you?
Oh, like Richmond, Virginia, or like,
The hobby town.
the Hobby Town is like 8 minutes away. I mean, it's like my
Oh, okay. Because you know what? I found out, and I was looking at the hobby town or the Gundam build thing, the championship.
Yeah,
They had this at Plano. It's a city that's, like,
yeah,
probably
Plano,
40
Texas.
minutes away.
Okay.
It's actually not too bad, but I'm sitting here thinking there's nothing, and there actually is something. So,
Well, so and it's funny because Texas is so different than Virginia, like, a 40-minute drive in Texas means that you're, like, 80 miles away from it, right? Like, you
yeah.
can actually get there a 40-minute drive in Virginia is, like, 5
Another
miles away.
state? Oh,
It's
okay.
it's just like, traffic here is
Oh, is
ridiculous, and
that
so, it was
interesting?
one of the when we had the Undergated guys on the show and we were talking about, like, Austin constantly making the trip up to Northern Virginia, like,
Yeah.
like, I will make any excuse in the world not to get on I-95 and drive north.
Oh, that's why that was such a big deal. Yeah, because that's a good point. Because here yeah, around here, it's kinda even though we complain about the traffic in Dallas, we will still drive across, like, there's a Star Wars action figure store in Fort Worth that's about 30 minutes away, and it's like another city over or a few
Yeah.
cities over, but not a big deal. That's interesting.
It's just a totally different culture, man. I don't know how to describe it because, like, I think you described, like, your family will make 40-minute trips on the weekend like it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
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 we
exactly.
don't do that up here.
Wow. Yeah, even the convention I'm going to, I consider it close. It's just 30 minutes away, really, and I just go on the highway and go straight, you know,
Oh, man. 30-minute trip means I'm calling out of work.
Wow, interesting.
But yeah, so we're gonna go over a little bit of that, and it's been a while since we've done any crafting on stream, and I'm glad that you brought up that like you've been working on the Gundam EX, and I love the video that you just dropped on the Requiem for Vengeance Solari Zaku.
Oh,
Man, I
yeah.
still need to build mine. I actually have an idea. I might try and fit it into a Dio that I have been
Ooh.
kind of putting off. But maybe that'll be the year-end project is a diorama. It depends on how the Patreon theme shakes out because, like, we've been doing this thing where the beginning
Alright.
of every month, we vote on a theme that's randomly generated, and we do a build based on that, and, maybe it's a Gunpla build, maybe it's something different, maybe it's a mini painting, something like that that's related to the theme. Ultronymous here in chat, oh my gosh, just bashed my hand on my desk. Um, Ultronymous here in chat has shown me a few photos of, his build for the month, and I'm really excited to share that on the first show of December's,
Oh, cool.
yeah, live shows. So, we are gonna do that the first show in the first week of December. We'll be showing off some of these, Patreon builds. But, yeah, then we are gonna be doing a little bit of that 3D modeling. I'm gonna show you guys something that we're gonna work on together, and hopefully you guys will learn something. I like to, do a little peek behind the curtain, show you guys how hopefully you'll think that it's easy what we're doing, and then, it'll inspire you to do them, yourself. Because I mean, I'm not the most talented 3D modeler in the world, but, I think that I have perfected certain techniques that allow me to work quickly and efficiently and get really good results.
Ah,
At least as far
that's
as
smart.
like, you know, at least as far as like accessories. Over on Instagram, so like one of the judges from the Gunpla Builder World Cup, Nickel Models, Nick L, if you
Oh,
follow
let
him on
me look that
Instagram,
up.
he was looking for a master grade Anavolgato, beam rifle, like, so the Anavolgato custom master grade beam rifle, um, and I was like, "Well, I mean, I have a 3D model of it. Do you want it?" And so
Oh, that's cool.
I've gone in and detailed it up because, like, and we're gonna be using a game rip. I'm gonna show you guys, like, how to basically take a game rip and elevate it because, one of the things that that really chaps my ass is when I go through, like, Cults 3D or any of these other 3D model marketplaces, and you see people that will take Gundam game rips and put them, like, just direct up for download. So, like, for instance, on Cults 3D, you can find the same, I say the same, but you can find a similar Magella attack tank available for purchase, that is all one piece. It's not, split up the way that mine is. You can tell that ripped from the same game, but I've put a little bit of extra care and love into it to actually make it, printable and
Usable.
smooth out some of those details,
And,
whereas this one is all jaggedy and jankety.
you're talking about what you sent me, right? That
Yeah,
that and so, yeah, this, so, for those that are, like, in the Patreon, they can get access to the STL file of this, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and actually, I did go through and upgrade it, based on the feedback from your stream, because it's so
Oh.
rare that I actually get feedback on the models.
Oh,
I was
yeah,
like
good point.
I was like, "Oh, well, sure, let me tighten up some of the joints on that. let me, I think with your version, I had reversed the connection points on the cannons because it used to be that the cannons had peg joints on them that slid into the joint on the tank. But what I found was that if you put the pegs on the tank top and then you put the peg holes on the cannon, you could actually slide them in and hide the channel where that peg hole would slide in. So, like, for instance, you'll see that there's, like, a channel on the inside of
Which
the
one?
cannon. What's that?
The tank here? Or
Yeah,
the other tank?
on both of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so basically I kind of hid the connection points so that it's a little cleaner.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. These are so clean, like, especially the Magella tank and the way that the cockpit is, like, I cannot wait to paint this because already, like, just the way it looks, this is, like, perfect for, dioramas. Like,
I hope so. That's the
yeah,
goal.
yeah, this and just the way it feels too, it's just neat. Like, this is
They're pretty solid, and I printed a couple of them for a diorama of my own that I'm excited to share with you guys. So I can't wait to see how you print them or how you paint them because,
yeah,
and then, I know that you love real type markings, so I
yep,
had to throw you in, some
I
real
know.
types.
That was awesome. I can't wait to put those on.
But yeah, so let me go ahead and hop into our screen share view. I'm gonna show off some of these builds from, the Gunpla Builders World Cup near me, and then we can start doing some 3D modeling.
Cool.
And, I see in the chat, Nintendo Gal, good to see you again. I will, cover like how to spot a game rip versus something that was originally sculpted. And Mega Snyder in chat, Chris, sorry, s- I think I set the stream start time at 8:15. I was trying to get around 8, but my daughter was putting up a fight and going to bed. We read 5 books tonight, which, like, how am I gonna say no to her if she wants to read one more book, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's a tough one.
I'm glad she likes to read more than I do.
Yeah, it's a good hobby to for her to keep up with.
Speaking of hobbies.
Oh, yeah.
So here are some of the table shots from the event. Oh, hey, look, there's a comment from this schmuck. Uh, oh, no, I accidentally hit the, hashtag. I didn't mean to do that. But, yeah, so here are some of the table shots. This first one is from, Pencil Knights, awesome builder, fellow LED enthusiast. The pictures don't do this build justice, the Forbidden Gundam, because the LEDs were actually set on a timer, and so they were, like, flickering on and off throughout the entire event. It was like
Oh, that's pretty neat. You kinda give it some dynamism, so
Yeah.
people are like, "Whoa, what's going on there?"
So, yeah, and I'm hoping to have him on the show, sometime in the near future so we can talk about, LEDs and he does some 3D printing work too, so that'll be really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Here we have a nice pair of balls. They are I couldn't help myself.
Nah, of course.
The paint jobs on them are fantastic. I love,
Yeah.
and this is one of the beauties of the high grade, like, 2 packs, like the ball or the Loto, the twin set Lotos,
Oh,
is that
yeah.
you can do these types of things. They've got, some ground type, either Gundam or GM legs. I can't quite pick out which legs they're harvested from, but they do look like kind of junker builds, which is really cool to me, and I love
What
the base.
what's the torso?
Uh, that's a good question. The torso on the black one in the back is definitely from the Haro, right?
Okay.
That, like,
Yeah.
mobile Haro, but the one in the front, I don't recognize this one. If you guys in chat, are familiar with this one,
Yeah,
let me
that's
know.
interesting. I mean, because 'cause
It's
it'd be cool if it was just a standard, maybe Zaku or Xeon torso, and they really just cut it to fit, that would be pretty neat, but
that
because I
would
don't
be kinda
recognize it.
cool. You know what it kinda looks like to me is it actually kinda looks like, the Scope Dog from Votoms.
Oh, yeah, and would that count because it's a Bandai, uh, kit?
Yes, I suppose so. So I
Yeah.
remember we talked about that last week, is that the Gunpla Builder World Cup is very, stringent about what you're allowed to use. But yeah, how cool is this little hand paint job here? That's pretty sweet, and I love it almost looks like a, Legend of Zelda type eye on there.
That I was thinking that and I didn't know what it was from, but yeah, that's exactly it.
It's pretty
That
cool.
yeah, that is it.
So this is Pixelly's build. This is actually a vintage Rick Dom kit. And there are so many sweet little details in this diorama that are, I mean, so freaking cool. Like, obviously, you have the GM shield here. You have this GM head that's floating there.
Yeah,
And one of the things that I really appreciate about this is how well she was able to hide the posts and the supports. So, I think you can barely see down in the lower left corner, there's like a clear acrylic rod that's holding
yeah,
up the piece of the asteroid, and so, this is one of the things, like, you guys know me, I'm so, like, I don't know, anal about, like, hiding, things, like, I don't like to
right.
I don't like action bases for that reason, you know?
Right, yeah. So, yeah, this is the person I was talking about where I was following them on YouTube because they covered, like, video game retro gaming and YouTube, uh, yeah, in Japan or whatever, and,
Yeah,
um, yeah, so it's cool that crossover because you don't always come across YouTubers that cover, like, gaming and Gundam, but it's interesting because it reminds me too of, Luke's build, the idea of using making your own sort of base or diorama to allow it to I think that's a really cool way to go
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, and scratch building all of these,
Yeah.
asteroid chunks and debris is really cool. I love the way that, like, the rebar is coming out from the center of the asteroid.
Is it that they show that a lot in the show or in the
Oh,
different
yeah.
iterations of it, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Here we have what I think is a beautiful looking Gyan.
Yeah.
We need more Gyan love. I can't tell if that is an LED in the mono eye or if it's just catching the light just right,
Oh, like a
but
metallic sticker.
yeah, it
It's
might just be
interesting
a metallic sticker.
and, the paint scheme going on here really, grounds the design. Because the
Yeah.
design is a little on the goofy side in the first place, but this paint scheme here really works. It almost makes it look like if back in the whole, Knights of the Round Table time, like, King Arthur might have had some, like, steam engine, mecha or something, you know?
Yeah, man, I agree with you, like, the Gyan itself is kind of like a silly looking mobile suit, but this paint scheme really, and it's very subtly weathered, like, it's not overblown, like, I know
Right.
everybody who gets, like, a ground GM or a ground Gundam, they like to just basically dunk that thing in brown ink and, like, super weather it. This is very subtle weathering, it's like a little bit of rust here and there at the edges and things like that. It really does make it look more like military hardware than what it kind of looks like to me is like an Akira Toriyama designed mech.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good because even the weathering on it kinda goes with, like, the world, of the way things are designed.
Yeah, yeah, so a nice subtle build, and I love to see that. This thing, man, I don't
Oh,
even
that's neat.
know what this is, to be honest with you. So it looks like the faceplate is from the Jim set, I think. Um,
Hmm.
but I mean, this thing looks like a sports car to me,
Yeah,
like with the colors, the color blocking in particular is
yeah.
very cool. It
The
looks
way the
fast as
decals
hell. Yeah,
are
it's
on
got
it, yeah.
exactly. And it looks like a kit bashed build. Like there's a lot of different parts going on here that I don't recognize half of them. I'll be honest with you.
No.
Plus, I love anything that has like kind of wing binders like that on the backpack.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that. There's a lot of experimenting you can do with those concepts or whatever. Almost and I've always thought about this, like the xenomorphs from Alien, how they have, like, the sort of the bones that stick out of the back, but that's almost in a way
Yeah.
wing binders.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's a I just love that aesthetic choice, and I think that, who was it? Geiger? HR
Yeah,
Geiger?
yeah, that's right.
I think that blending organic and mechanical designs is something that he was really big into, so,
Yeah, that's
um
yeah, good point.
and this raises an important question when it comes to, like, judging because, I was sitting there with Coop and with Ricky Hoskins and with, Nick, and, they were talking about because Ricky and Nick were going to be judging the competition, and they were talking about, the kind of categories that are available and, you know, what constitutes being on a base, right? So, like, this is one of those standard action bases versus, we saw Pixelly's build that was, like, kind of on a scratch-built asteroid. Now, where do we draw the line when it comes to something that's on a base versus something that's in a diorama versus something like this that it's like, technically, I wouldn't call this a based model. I mean, yes, it's based, but it's not based. But no, it's not based because the base is not part of the build, right? The base is something, it's just an accessory that's holding it up.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting because it's interesting if the base is detailed enough that it helps propel, you know, its place in the voting, whereas I don't know if a lack of a base might hurt, I don't know.
And that's where it's like, having different categories would, I think, make these events more, accessible is not the right word, but, I think it would definitely reduce a lot of the controversy that happens around the judging process because I think a lot of people get bent out of shape about like very particular things. And it's like, what's funny is the store owner from Hobbytown, even before the judging started, was like, "Hey, just so you guys know, here's the sheet from Bandai that's like, here's how we judge it. It's like this isn't like some subjective thing that we just make up as we go along. We
Oh,
have like a
okay.
we have criteria that we're supposed to follow." Um,
Okay. I'm not too familiar with that, so that makes sense.
this was a cool build as well. We've got the Rick Diaz getting murked here. And again, this is one of those ones that like clearly is a custom made base, but
Right.
it's not a diorama base, right?
But how much does that inform people that you can't trust Bandai bases? You know? You would
That's
think they would make, like, champion grade or championship grade bases.
That is a great idea, honestly, because let's face it, like, if Bandai is fully behind, like, the Gunpla Builder World Cup, then you could take all of that guesswork out of it if you said, "This is the champion grade base, and this is the only base that you're allowed to have your model kit on," and then it makes it so that dioramas are their own category because you can't bring your own base.
And there would be this expectation of it just being sturdy because you don't want your thing to fall off the base, because that's the thing with me. And that's why I'm thinking I'm seeing these custom bases a lot is not
Yeah.
only to hold the extra stuff, but to be sturdier.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I always have the fear from, like, cooking shows of, like, carrying the cake across the room and, like,
Well,
tipping
you
it
know what's
over.
funny? In middle school, we were doing a project in science where you had to design our own alien, and you could do it however you wanted.
Oh,
You could paper, whatever, but I used clay, and I made this alien. It was awesome. And then something happened, and it ended up breaking by the time I got in. I was like, "This is what it looked like," but it broke, and I was just so embarrassed. I was so,
dude,
yeah.
that's how I felt at the model contest back in July. I was like, I put all this work
Oh,
into the Bawu, and then the battery pack slipped out, and, like, the whole thing wasn't even lit up during the judging, so
yeah. Oh,
Um, here we have a little diorama piece, you've got the Guion and the, GM kind of in a little sword fight here. I like that the GM kind of has this gold calf.
yeah. As
That's an
if it was
interesting
like
little
a
piece.
repair or something, and it
Yeah,
had gold to repair with. Interesting.
you can't go anywhere without a ground Gundam. This one's pretty standard, but, again, subtle weathering. I like that they didn't go overboard with it because, I'm
Yeah,
not a big weathering guy.
yeah. Same here.
Back to Pencil Knight's, build. Again, this is that, forbidden, I think it's the forbidden. It's got that cool beam saber swipe across the 2 shield plates, and, of course,
Yeah, that's
the
cool.
multicolor LED setup. And, the full there's, like, full tutorials of this over on the Pencil Knight's YouTube channel, so, definitely check that out if you get a chance. He goes into depth about, like, how to kind of bend the wires into place and make them fit.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, here we go. This is, the intense judging process from, Ricky and Nick there. He
That's
is
cool.
clearly like, man, he's about to bring the hammer down on that poor, is that a Zaku? Yeah, that's
Like,
Zaku's
look
toe.
at the base. No, I'm joking.
Not based! Um, no, and you know what's funny is he made the joke, like, part of putting your build on a base is literally to elevate it so that the judges don't have to bend down as much to look at your piece, so,
Yeah, that's a good point.
here we got a little Exia build. I like the custom paintwork on this, right?
And would you say most of them are custom painted? Did you see any that were just not really necessarily painted?
Yeah, there were a couple. I mean, that ground type, Gundam, and it looked like the
Oh,
GM Gian,
okay.
those looked like, bare
Just
plastic for the most part. Obviously, there was that golden calf, but
yeah.
and then, like, for instance, this new Gundam here looks like so that there's some pretty cool weathering, there's some bullet holes and things like that,
It
but
almost looks like shading, like with a pencil. That is a
yeah,
pretty cool, unique style.
yeah. It's pretty cool 'cause it to me, it looks like the damage wasn't done, like, it doesn't look like they took a hobby knife and, like, actually poked holes, it kinda looks like they're painted on.
Yeah. Yeah, that is cool.
Here we've got, your favorite, the Nightingale. I like this paint job on it, and I kind of dig how the shoulders are not on the shoulders, they're kind of like
Yeah.
wing
I
binders.
was about to say that's a neat interpretation
Yeah,
of that. Yeah.
very cool piece there. I I loved this piece. It's got the rivals, there's, like, a story being told here. We've got what looks like, um it's like the same it's a standard GM, right? But it looks like it's painted almost like the RX-81, you know?
Yeah, that's what I thought at first when I saw it.
And then, you guys know I love an Ifrit, so we've got
Yeah.
an Ifrit on the other side colored in red, and it's got the electricity coming out of the mono eye, very cool there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be a diorama contest without Doan Zaku. This is clean looking, like,
Uh, yeah.
you know,
It's a nice
uh,
piece just to have just to look at, it's
yeah, yeah, I would like that on my shelf.
yeah.
And then finally, we have this, that's the Calibarn above the moon,
Yeah. Wow.
very cool.
Yeah.
See, and then I think that that's a missed opportunity for LEDs because, you know,
Oh,
the
yeah, because of the whole permit system, yeah.
exactly. So, yeah, I mean, fantastic, builds all around. Let me see, I think we've got so here are the top 3, you know, we've got, Pixelly's Green Knight, which is that Dom. Again, fantastic little details. I didn't even know that this was a vintage kit until I found out later, so
Yeah. It's interesting, do you think and well, actually, let's go through the top 3, and then I wanna ask some things about the judging.
that poor little GM
It's
head.
painted well even for that small little part.
Yeah, and that's to me is a big deal, right? Like, you could just put all of your effort into the model kit and then kind of, I don't wanna say phone in, but, like, slack off
Just
on
settle
the
with the extra pieces, but there is something to, like, adding that extra detail on there. Yeah.
yeah. And then second was, the ball pair,
Yeah.
which again, I love I love the
There's
base, it's got
yeah.
this, like, it's almost like that LA Customs vibe, like, it looks like it was, built in a chop shop,
Yeah. Yeah, that is cool.
and that was by, Daniel C.
Okay.
And then the prototype Stark Jagan by Jacob took 3rd.
Interesting.
The wooden base with, like, the placard is really cool.
Yeah, that is. I mean, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my type of thing anyway, Federation.
So, congratulations to the 3 that placed. That I mean, that was tough competition. I would have had a hard time judging that, and I do not envy, um, the folks that did the judging, so
Well, and let me ask you, when you're judging, could whatever the mobile suit is be a factor, be a like a subjectivity in the objectivity? Does that make sense? Like,
no, I know what you're getting at, where there's almost like, there's a level of creativity involved, and then, of course, like, they do require that it is an official Bandai kit, but they don't specify, like, does it have to be modern? Can it be like, does it, what scale can it be? Like, is it 1/144th? Can it be a perfect grade?
Oh, yeah.
What's interesting is you don't see a lot of like perfect grades or mega size models there. Typically the winners are 1/100 scales.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, and then, like, even if someone, like, preferred a Xeon suit, like, is it like, "Well, I like the way this Xeon suit is painted," and not like, "Oh, I like the way this is painted,"
right.
you know?
Yeah, there's a that's where that subjectivity comes into play, man, and I
Because
gotta say,
yeah, I mean, honestly, looking at this, this is just a badass suit. You know what I mean? It's like this is
oh,
just badass in the first place, and so this interpretation of it just lends so well to especially the paint, especially around the face. Like it's really like yelling Xeon. You know, just the way it looks.
yeah, zigging almost.
Zeeging. See, that's the verb I'm looking for. Zeeging. I need to remember that.
No, no, this is awesome. Like, I love this, and,
There's so many and that's the thing with this, like, at first glance, maybe if you're not a fan of this mobile suit, if you look closely, there's so much detail to every aspect of it, even the weathering. There's probably, like, 20 types of weathering going on, you know, like, it's very interesting,
yeah. Yeah, you got different shading going on and things like
and
that. It's very
and
cool.
and another thing, it's like, with something like this, it's like someone that's interested in this can look at this and be like, "Oh, I can try this. I can try that." So I think that's another good thing if you think of the winner, it's like, what are the different neat techniques that they've used that maybe someone that wants to get into it can look and be inspired?
Exactly, and that's what this is all about, right? Like, I'm hoping that people see this and they're like, "Ooh, that gives me an idea for what I'm gonna do with my next build or what I would like to build a diorama around."
Ah,
Um, and
yeah,
to me, that would be like the ultimate subjective, objective criteria that I would apply is like, did the piece make me feel something? Did the piece make me wanna run home and start building my own kit, or was I
yeah.
just like, you know
Yeah,
a and
that's
and I gotta say, when I saw some of these builds, this one and like I said, Pencil Knights in particular, I was like, I'm gonna hit my desk as soon as I get home, and I'm gonna start working
try
on
that.
some stuff, like
Yeah, 'cause and that's a good example with for me personally, this and the ground Gundam we saw earlier, even though it was kinda simple, just the look of it and the way it was, you know, the nuance in the weathering where it wasn't too but it was just like, "That is badass." You know, but it's like, I wonder if sometimes if you really wanted to win, you have to go outside your comfort zone, you know, to really dial in, what is it that I need to do to sort of not show off, but it's more of to express for people to pick up on that and be like, "Whoa, look at this," you know?
yeah, and I think that we have that conversation sometimes around, like, content creation too, where it's like, "Okay, are we trying to create content, for the algorithm, or are we trying to create content
Yeah,
for for ourselves?" And so, you can tell when someone's creating something for the purposes of like creating content that they're trying to feed the algorithm. And so it's the same thing when you're looking at some of these pieces that people build that you're like, I can tell that they're just trying to play up certain aspects of their abilities in order to appease judges.
yeah,
Whereas other ones, it's like, okay, so maybe they didn't paint in a particular way because they were focused on something else that's more important to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, and to no fault of anybody's, like, I don't think that there's a wrong way to do it.
right. Yeah, exciting. Next year, for sure, I need to enter in the one, in Plano that's kinda near me. I need to start thinking of it right now, and my first thought
Yes.
was ground Gundam. It's like, "No, no, 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 I need to outside my comfort zone."
Exactly. Well, and it's funny because I'm like, I am firmly in my comfort zone. I'm going LEDs. I'm going Zeta
Ah,
Plus. It's
but those things, are, I think, killer for a competition.
well, and yes and no. I feel bad because it's like, part of what I'm doing is making it so that it's still transformable, which you're not gonna be able to
Oh,
see on the table.
interesting. So is that even a consideration?
I don't know, and that's something I'm gonna be looking into is, like, if I'm gonna submit photography for, like, the online entry, because you can either do online or in person, right?
Oh,
So, like, maybe I should only do online entry into, like, the bigger one, if only because I can submit more photos and be like, "Hey, here's the same thing, but broken down and then transformed into Wave Rider mode." I don't know.
yeah, that I think that's a unique thing that if it's not taken into account, it needs to be just because that's kind of inherent to some of what's unique about Gundam is the transforming.
Yeah, and it's just part of how anal I am, like,
Oh,
it's like
I'm sorry. I was about to say, you know what you need to do? You need to get 3 and make it where it's phases of transforming.
see that not only do it would that probably be easier, but that would actually be pretty sweet.
Yeah, that would.
Well, with that out of the way, we can hop into Blender. I'm gonna be showing you guys some of these tricks where you can, take something that's from a game and hopefully elevate it, escalate it,
Yeah, one of those.
one of those
A
things.
higher, vibration,
Yeah,
higher frequency.
exactly. So, let me make sure that this is looking all right on the stream for you guys, and hopefully, my computer can handle such intense work while we're
We'll
while we're
see.
live. So, one of the things I want to bring to your attention before we even start is that this particular template that I've built is is designed for 3D printing, and there's certain things that I did in particular to make that happen. So our unit system over here in the display scene is in metric, and our unit scale is 0.001. And what that means is that we are setting it to millimeters. So it's a thousandth of a meter. And then in the display view, the grid is set to 0.001. And so what that's gonna allow us to do is if we're scaling anything and we're trying to keep everything in scale, we can set it in millimeters. So that's where it's like I can break out the little micrometer and say like, all right, if I know that my real grade Gundam is 132 millimeters tall, then I know that my, you know, main battle tank needs to be 111 meters long or what have you.
And it's just that just makes sense as a unit of measure just because you're gonna be working within millimeters as you're instead
Yeah.
of like an inch, it's like, "Well, this isn't really an inch." Hmm. Yeah,
Right, and well, yeah, because obviously, like, we know we can go to, like, the Gundam Wiki, even though obviously they're not always accurate.
right.
For instance, if I were to pull an asset from a video game and it's, like, 10 meters wide, I know that that's not the right calculation, and so what I would do is say, like, "Alright, what's 144 divided by" or, yeah, 1 what's the unit that we're measuring by divided by 144 multiplied by 1,000 in order to get millimeters at 1 to 144th scale. Math.
Yeah, I know.
Um, and then this box here that you see, the black lines, that is actually this is for personal reference. You don't have to do this. I made basically that's the build volume of my specific 3D printer. And so this helps me determine,
Oh,
okay, is can I fit this on the build plate in one piece or am I going to need to cut it up?
that's smart.
Yeah. So let's hop into import here, and we're going to be importing an FBX. Now I'm not sure what we're going to do. We did. I threw in the what you have you the thumbnail. We had that core booster,
Oh,
but there's
yeah.
a couple of other things that we can look at.
You know what
Let's
would be
see.
cool, but I don't know how easy that would be. This might be a future project, the, Requiem for Vengeance, dot fighter,
Yeah, that
because you
thing
know
looks
how
slick.
yeah, it just had a kind of a longer front to look more aerodynamic, but I think you unless we can pull some of those assets from somewhere, you'd probably have to do that by hand, right?
Yeah, probably so. That would
Mm,
probably be. I don't
a little
know.
tougher.
Maybe there's something we can do there.
Mm.
I do have a DOP in here that we can look at. So these are actually from Gundam Battle Alliance, if you remember that game from way back when, Adam. I know that you were on the forefront of creating content around that game, and you helped me kind of get to the level that I needed to get to in order to unlock all of my Zeta parts.
Oh, really? An SD Gundam Battle Alliance? Is that what you're talking about?
Mhm.
What? Oh, I so is it like SD sized?
Yes and no. So let me pull this core
Oh,
booster in here, and I'll show you guys what we're looking at.
that's
Um,
interesting.
all right, so it's a little small. We're probably gonna have to scale this up to make it in line with what we are building here. Let me go ahead and get rid of this. That's just like some placeholder stuff. So this is our model straight out of the video game. Whoa, I'm like, did I change my my trackpad to inverted? Um,
Hey, always invert. That's what I do.
Really? Man, I
Yeah.
I used to play inverted back in the day, but yeah, I don't know what turned me into a
Yeah.
normie.
It's whenever there's a game that doesn't allow you to invert. I've been there. Oh,
It kills you. Yeah.
yeah. Splinter Cell, one of the first one that had multiplayer, you couldn't invert.
Mhm. Yep. But yeah, you look at something like this, and this came straight out of the video game. You think you could throw this straight on the printer and it would look great. However, what we're going to do is we're going to right click, and there's this little shading option here. You can shade smooth or shade flat. Let's click shade flat because that is actually what the model is going to look like. And here you can see all of the geometry of the object, and this is what's going to print. And so what's gonna happen is, especially on these smooth edges, the canisters on the side of the core booster, it is going to look like absolute garbage. And you
Mm,
could fix this, you could sand it down and, do all of that to repair what it looks like so that it's smooth the way that it's supposed to, or you can just fix it and then print it, and then you don't have to do all the sanding and stuff, and you get to retain all those details. And, so
right.
that's what we're gonna do right now. Um, Now this model, for being an SD actually has a ton of really good detail. Like, you see these panel lines are actually
Yeah.
modeled into the model, um, which is fascinating to me because typically that stuff is done by textures
Oh,
in
yeah,
video
that is
games.
interesting then, especially that in relation to the boosters, how, the geometry is so
Yeah. So let's see. I think we actually have. So here I'm going to go just into the material, and we're going to grab an image texture, and let's see if we can't apply the texture directly from the video game and see what it would look like with the texture applied. So we got base color.dds, and then we're going to come in here and turn it into texture mode. Oh my
Oh,
goodness, that is a horrific mess. There's
okay.
no way
Oh,
that that's right.
I mean, the colors are there.
Yeah, you can see where it's like it's trying. Image texture, oh no, I want that stuff back.
Oh, Taco and Yoshi, I see you got the PS Portal. Yeah, they just did that update where you can now do cloud gaming on it.
Oh, really?
Pretty cool. Yeah, so you're saying all future Gundam games will be PS5. What
Mm,
future Gundam games? I'm telling you, they need to announce something amazing.
they really do.
Not
Especially
Fortnite.
now. Oh, what's that?
I was saying not Fortnite.
Yes, please not any more Fortnite crossovers and things. So yeah, we're gonna rock it in our standard object view mode for the time being, just so that we can do what we're inclined to do here. Because yeah, the texture for some reason isn't working. Earlier, I was able to get the textures for like the Fat Uncle and the Medea working just fine. So I'm not sure exactly why this one's awkward. But suffice to say, we hopped into edit view here, and you can actually see all of the tries, everything that this object is made up of. The first thing I always do with any game rip is I will come up to typically it's in vertex, but in this version of Blender, it's in mesh. And we're going to go merge by distance with everything selected. And what that is going to do, man, it removed 13,000 vertices. So basically, every little point on there, and I can change to vertex selection mode. So every one of those points that was overlapping, we just merge them together so that they are not two separate objects. We combine them all together so that it's one solid piece. Um, that's going to make editing a little bit easier for us. The next thing that I like to do is I will come into the face menu here, and there's two options. There's triangulate faces, and then there's tries to quads. I always go tries to quads. Um, When we export it for printing, it's gonna convert back into triangles because that's the sort of optimal way to create shapes, but the reason that I like working with quads in this stage is because it's going to allow us to select edge loops a little bit easier. So, like, for instance, when you look at the front of these booster, pods, they were if we go back, they're split into 2 triangles. And so what I did was merge them into one square, which allows us to kind of select the edge loops without catching those random little lines in the middle.
I see.
Just little things like that. And then what we're going to do, the first step is we're going to keep everything selected. And then with the Shift and Alt key in edge select mode, we are going to select all of these long ways edges. These are edge loops technically because they actually go all the way around. And we are going to unselect them because what we're going to do is we're going to add a crease to every other edge on the model. And what a crease does is it is a fancy way of telling Blender that when we apply particular modifiers, not to apply the modifier to that crease. Now I'm also gonna select these rings here because I think we want these to be smooth as well. But for the most part, we want anything that looks smooth to be smooth. So, like on the actual boosters themselves, we'll go ahead and deselect all of these, but we'll keep the rings selected. And this is a tedious process, but
Yeah.
like I said, this is for the quality of the print, you know? Like I said, you could throw this on the 3D printer and it might print out fine, probably. You'd probably be okay. But you're gonna have a ton of cleanup to do after the fact. Like, why not just make a good model in the first place?
Yeah. Unless it's, like, PlayStation themed, where it's all blocky on purpose or something.
Yeah, we want everybody to look like Solid Snake. And I think that this is particularly important for, like, organic models, right? Because, like, if you were to
Yeah.
take most, character models from video games, unless it's something like one of the Resident Evil games where it's, like, super high poly models, you're gonna get pretty blocky looking characters, and so this is gonna be how we're going to smooth them out and make them look more organic is by doing this process. Um, I have done this for both Gundam things, and I also did it for Legend of Zelda prints that I did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there was I did a series of minis, based on Legend of Zelda. It was, like, not the amiibos, but, like, the statues from, Super Smash Brothers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
You
cool.
know Yeah, they had a series of statues that you could, earn
Right.
by playing the game. I never, like, actually played the newest Smash Brothers,
Wow.
so I did not have them, but I was able to find 3D models of them and and print them out. One of them is actually right here on the step here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we got a little Skyward Sword Link, which technically not accurate because this is the only Link that is canonically right-handed instead of left-handed, and I
Oh.
printed him left-handed like an idiot. Uh,
Oh, yeah. That's right. Because I guess it was because of the Wii. Wait,
exactly
the
right.
GameCube version. So it is canonically correct because I think wasn't it the GameCube version was left-handed and it was the Wii version. Oh,
I don't
wait,
think they
no,
had a
Skyward Sword.
GameCube
I was
version.
thinking Twilight Princess.
Oh, yeah, Twilight
That's the one where
Princess.
they flipped it. Yeah, Skyward Sword, they kept it that way, yeah.
Mhm.
Good game.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorite, Legend of Zeldas
The beginning was a little slow for me, but then it gets into it, into the
because it is
groove.
a very story-driven Zelda, and, of course,
Yeah.
there's a lot of, like, backtracking to the same places, but I actually like that. Like, I like having a small open world, if that makes sense, like an
Yeah,
enclosed something. It's like the Resident Evil games, how it's like you explore the mansion or you explore the police station, like, it's a contained area and you can unlock more places. It almost is
yeah,
kind of like a Metroidvania in that way, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, even, like, the Metal Gear Solid 5 that I've been playing, like, I think there is something to be said about games that have exploration, contained exploration, you know?
Yeah, not everything has to be like an open wasteland, like, you can
Right.
have, like, one base that you return to and
Yeah. I'm getting
Um,
nostalgic for a good Zelda game.
Me too. Man, we're talking a lot about video games tonight, which is kind of on it's like on
Yeah,
brand for us.
that's true. That's true.
But yeah, I mean, I'm hankering for a good video game, and I just haven't found one lately. Uh,
Yeah, I'm trying to find something to keep me busy, but I think tomorrow with the new patch for Star Wars Outlaws that revamps the entire gameplay system, I
there
think
you
that'll be
go.
it. Yeah.
I'd be interested to see that.
Yep.
So, what you're seeing now is there's a bunch of the lines that make up this model that have just turned pink because I set the crease on them to 1, which is 100%. We're going to hop out of edit mode, and then you're about to see some magic. We're going to go over into the modifiers menu, and we are going to add a subdivision surface modifier. And what this does is it basically subdivides every face on the model by a number of iterations. And so right now we have it, basically split into two. Then we'll hit this up and it'll split into four, maybe.
D
We'll
do
see if
you
my
f
computer
Okay, I
can
was
handle
about
it.
to say, do you feel your computer slowing down when you do that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, let me for the sake of you guys seeing this visually, I think that this might help. So this is the wireframe view, right? So you can see the insides of the model. And you know what? We can turn the X-ray version off. What do you guys like this view where you can kind of see the internals of the
I do like it. It makes me wanna, like, put this in Photoshop and put lines and pointing to what all the little things are, just I don't know, technical manual,
yeah,
you know?
cross sections.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
when we add the subdivision surface modifier, watch what happens to the wireframe. So right now, nothing. Let me see if we go up one. Is it not reflecting the Oh, there it is. So you can see that the number of, like did it change? Maybe
Mm,
I'm crazy.
yeah, I didn't see a change.
Okay, so this one's taking a little longer. This is the 3rd subdivision. Okay, so now this is looking really smooth.
Yeah,
Okay, so for the sake of showing you guys what's happening here, I'm gonna turn it off. So this is what the model looks like, and then this is what we've done to the model to smooth it out, especially just on these boosters. As you can see, my computer is doing the little beach ball thing. So now, when
yeah.
we go to print it, this is a much higher res model that's going to have more detail packed into it. Now, that does mean that the file is going to be bigger, but there are things we can do about that too, honestly.
Wow.
Um, and as far as scaling goes, we probably do need to increase the size of this. Um, Let me see. Do we know how large the core booster is? Core booster Gundam. So the core booster is 13.8 meters long. Okay. So then let's see what that is. 13.8 divided by 144. And then we are going to multiply that by 1,000 to get what we need our model to look like. 95.83 repeating long. So what we'll do is we can actually just go in here and with the object selected, I can see that it's actually rotated 90 degrees. So I was confused because the longest side should be the y-axis, but it's technically the z.
Mm.
So, oh shoot, I completely forgot what number it was. Did we say 98.3
90
repeating?
Oh, I thought it was 95,
Oh
but
yeah, let's do 95.3 repeating. Um, Now obviously looks a little stretched out and goofy. We're gonna copy the percentage growth that is, and we're going to paste it into the X and Y values. And that is our 1 to 1/44th scale core booster.
nice.
Um, Now I mentioned so this actually I think would fit on my printer if we were to, because I would
Rotate.
print it at an angle, right? Like, I would probably print it something like this,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
and then we'd have our supports, and we can, like, do it that way. But let's place it back down here because there's a couple of other things that I think might present an issue. Is that if we look at the inside of the model, there's a ton of detail that, like, you would
Oh.
never see. Like, like, there's this, I don't even know what this is, like the chest cavity where the
Oh,
thing
yeah.
plugs in.
That's
But if we
funny.
were gonna print this, is in one piece, which I don't know. What do you think? Would you print this in one piece or would you print it in two, where you have, like, the core fighter on its own and then the
Well,
booster?
that's a good question because if it was on its own, I would then expect to have wings coming out, landing gear.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we would do the thing where we make it in scale with the real grade core fighter and then just plug the core fighter in the into the booster, right?
Oh, wait a minute. So I see what you're saying. So it's almost like here's a core booster where you don't need the fighter
Right.
necessarily. That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, I think it should be 2 pieces.
Alright, we can do that.
Yeah.
We can do that. So let's hop back into edit mode. I'm going to, for the sake of my computer, turn the, subdivision surface modifier off, at least visually, so that, yeah, you can see that my computer is moving a lot faster now that I've done that. And what we're gonna do is just go ahead and select all of the faces that make up the front half. Now that's a pretty rough selection. What we can do is hit Command or Control if you're on a PC, L, and that
Oh,
allows us
interesting.
to select everything that is linked. So anything that the faces you have touching is connected to would be that.
That's
And it looks like
interesting.
we got a
Because it
little
was,
bit
like,
of
built that way, I guess, then
yeah,
in
it
the
seems like it
model.
was made to do this, which is interesting. Let's turn this off and see. Okay, so there's this little fin piece here. I don't know if that's necessarily part of the core fighter. Does that?
Yeah, that
No, you know what? That is not, because there is a notch in the bottom of the core fighter that
oh,
sits on
that's where
that.
that would go.
So
It's
we
funny,
wanna
Taco and Yoshi is saying to have that pull apart and have, like, a USB drive. It's a pretty good
that's
idea.
a great idea. And see, look, even the wings are their own parts as well,
Oh,
because
wow.
when
Okay.
I did the link select, it did the same thing, and it looks like the cockpit canopy is its own part. There's a lot of separation in here, which is kinda cool.
Yeah.
But I think that we've now selected everything that makes up the core fighter, at least. Let me
Mhm.
make sure. Oh, there's probably an easier way to do this, is we go to our this mode, and I don't see anything that is deselected in the middle, so we gotta make sure we select everything all the way through, you know? And then what we're gonna do is, right click, and you can do separate by selection, and then we've got 2 pieces here, and we can actually take this little core fighter and eject it.
Interesting. That is pretty
Pretty
neat.
cool
So,
stuff.
there might need to be some modification potentially made to the core booster itself to make it,
Maybe,
yeah, connect.
maybe. We might wanna install some kind of tabs in there that allow it to connect to something. Like this, I think would work fine, like, if we wanted it to just connect to the core fighter that is part of it, but if
Yeah.
we wanted it to be able to connect to another core fighter, we would probably want something in there. And it looks like I missed a little face there, so let's bring this back in. We're gonna select this guy, um, and let's tab in here. We're gonna grab this piece, and I think there was something in here that was part of the wing. Let's go into X-ray mode, grab that, make sure that we select all of it. We're gonna separate by selection again, hop back out, and then we can we're just gonna grab the oh, did I not? There we go. So we're gonna grab that, Command J to join, and now those are one piece. So the stuff that I missed in
Mm,
the first grab. And then, yeah, we've got, like, probably 1 more minute to go, so I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna try and be respectful of everyone's time here and just knock out this last little piece. It should be a quick one. This is the final thing that I do before any 3D print, and it's because of those internals that I showed you earlier. Is we're going to come in here and decimate the model, which is kind of a silly thing, right? It's like we took the model and we created all of this detail, and now we're going to compress the detail out. And the reason we do this is to make the file smaller and because of the next step that we're going to do. So we'll probably set it to about 0.25 as the ratio. And already you can see that like a lot of the detail has been compressed out of it. I don't know how good I feel about that. Like if we
Yeah, because it looks good
mm,
the way it was.
yeah, I think we might skip the decimate step because it looks like it's
Yeah.
killing too much of our detail. But the thing that's important, and this is why what I really like to do is the remesh modifier. What the remesh modifier does is it takes a complicated object. You saw how we had like the wings are one part, the canopy is one part, blah blah blah. We're gonna remesh it, and we're gonna basically take all of those parts and make it one hollow mesh.
Oh,
Um, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of like if you had a sphere around the object and a bunch of lines projecting in on it, and everything that they hit becomes the outside of the mesh.
no,
Now
kinda like those toys with your hand that you press on
yes,
the
perfect analogy. Yeah, it's exactly how it works. And now as you can see, you have detail levels. So this is currently not great, right?
no.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna change the voxel size from zero point 0.1 millimeter to 0.01 millimeter and see what kind of result we get. All right, we're getting a little bit better. Now let's try 0.001. Now this one might crash the computer. I've had it crash Blender several times, just like I try to do it in increments, but this one might,
Oh,
boom, there we
there
go.
we go. Oh,
So,
it's
and like I said, the reason I do this is because then when you go inside the model, you don't have like, oh, shoot. You don't have like all kinds of random bits inside of it. It's just the
hollow.
model by itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hollows it out. Oh, there we go. This is a good view because you can actually like kind of see the outer detail of the you can kind of see it from the outside in. And then that is what I would consider ready to print.
Wow. That really didn't take too long,
No, no, with
especially if
this
you weren't
model
talking and showing, if you were just sitting there to do it. Yeah.
yeah, and this model was an easier one to work with. Like I think that one of the ones that's always a pain is when I'm working with a any kind of Zaku. And it's because they've got the curved shoulder pauldron, so there's a lot to trace on there, or like the legs are very curved, so there's a lot to trace on there as well. So yeah, the more curves there are on a model, typically the longer this process is going to take.
Yeah, the more curves on a model.
Mhm.
Feel like that you could take that somewhere else, but we won't.
I probably won't go there. Yeah, I like my models curvy, most people but no, so hopefully this gave you guys, like, a little peek behind the curtain, and like I said, showed you how basically I approach taking a game rip and making it something that's actually printable. There's other things that we would like to do. One of the things is making sure that the mesh is manifold, which that means that there are no like exposed edges, like nothing that's flat. Um, and there's add-ons in Blender that can do that for you. But honestly, there is a free service on formware.com. They're a 3D printing service. They have an STL fixer. And I love the disclaimer on there because they're like, all serious models can be fixed within 4 minutes. If your model can't be fixed in 4 minutes, then it's not it's not worth 3D printing.
Oh, wow, okay. Because I guess they get a lot of just random stuff that would be sent to them, and it's like, "Wait a minute, you can't
Yeah.
work with this."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you just like throw in a bunch of like random planes and stuff, this goes back to what I was talking about when the Gundam Metaverse leaks happened. Is
Oh,
that a
yeah.
lot of people thought like, "Oh my god, like free Gunpla for everybody," and it's like anybody who actually saw those files, and then anybody that has ever worked with video game files in general, knows how difficult it is to take something like that and then, like, convert it into a 3D print. And so, if you were just printing the was it like the high grade Arial or the master grade Freedom were the ones that were the big, like, Gunpla that were in that, um, that was it, like, that was as good as you were gonna get.
Mm,
If you wanted to use them to make anything significant, there was a whole lot of work you'd have to put into it to make it worth your while, so
okay. That yeah, that's it's almost like a piracy mechanism.
yeah, and I suspected that that was something that, Bandai was gonna do with any of the Metaverse files. So, like, for one thing, from what I saw, some of the models were, like, posed, like, the Ariel was in, like a shooting pose,
Mm.
and so that meant that and there was no way to reset it to, like, the default T pose, which means you would have to go in and mathematically calculate using trigonometry how to rotate the models so that and, like, each individual joint, because that's what you would have to do if you wanted to, like, customize it and do something interesting with it. So, um, yeah, and you see now no one's talking about it. Like,
Yeah, I
for
know.
something that was such a game changer, like, no one's talking about it anymore,
Right.
so but, yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight, and,
Oh,
again, big shout out to Pixelly and the other, winners from the Gunpla Builders World Cup near me. Hope you guys were inspired by the builds there. I know I was. Like I said, it made me wanna sit down with my Core Zeta and do some work here. Let me know if there's anything else that you would like to see 3D printed. I'll probably throw this core booster up on the, Patreon next month for you guys, along with the beam rifle that I'm working on for nickel models, just
oh,
so you
yeah.
guys if you guys want a master I've never done anything in master grade before, so you
Yeah,
guys
that
tell
is
me,
cool.
if you guys want that. Always as always, drop your suggestions down in the chat, and if it's a model that I can work with and do, some stuff I'll model myself, like the G3 container, um, like this guy made myself,
That's cool.
but something a little bit more complicated, like the core booster or, specifics, I'll do, game rips and then modify. So, and then yeah, if you haven't checked out your Adam's review of the
Oh, yeah.
Solari Zaku, go check that out because you were able to save a piece that I would have thrown in the trash with
I
that
know.
top coat issue.
I can't believe cooking oil. Who knew? Except the internet, but yeah.
Well, now you're cooking.
Yeah.
Um, well, and so yeah, dude. Speaking of the internet, discovered this stuff, the Quick Shine floor
Oh,
surface finish.
for
Um,
gloss, right?
Yeah, I mean, it works great for, like, a gloss coat, and also just adding it to acrylic paints, allows it to level the paints so that you don't get brush strokes in them.
Oh,
This stuff is like miracle wax for Gunpla, if
wow.
you're painting with acrylics,
Okay.
but yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out, and thank you, Adam, for,
Oh, yeah.
again, being a good sport while I spend time
Yeah,
fooling around in Blender.
hey, I'm learning a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna get you to fire up your 3D printer again, and,
Oh, I will buy a new one someday. It's gonna happen.
I need to get on one of those ones that's like the filament extruder ones, even though,
Oh, really?
the resin one's great for some of the stuff that we do, but honestly, resin's not as durable as, like, the plastic that comes out of the extruder.
Mm. So I guess, yeah, depending on what you're trying to make, it might just be better.
Yeah, I mean, especially, like, if I'm making Gunpla parts that are supposed to, like, snap together and fit, it'd be nice to have something a little bit more durable, even if it isn't heat proof.
Oh, yeah, especially like an inner frame or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Hope you have a great rest of your evening and catch us tomorrow on the Gundam Explain live show.
Yep. See y'all.
Cheers.